Good evening, Razorback fans. We are back. And if you noticed, we did not have our show this past week. We have some things going on that we're going to tell you about. As you see in the title of the video, and as we've posted on some social media this past week, we got a bit of rebranding that we're going through due to no choice of our own. And I mean, if we be honest and straight with you guys, it's our lovely university here decided that they didn't like our podcast name being Woo Pig Weeklies due to it being so close to Woo Pig Suey, and that's a trademark by the university. And with how we had our logo and podcast name and everything, they did not like that. I got a email early last week about it, and Seth and I have been discussing things all throughout last week, getting things figured out for you guys, and for the show on what direction we're gonna go, and all the things like that. And so that's why we didn't have our show last week on Thursday per normal. And then so going forward from here on out, we will be transitioning after this show. All of our social media, YouTube pages, all that's going to be transitioning to our new show name, Hawgs on the Hill Podcast. So that is going to be our transition now. Again, we hate to change it now, as everybody's getting used to it. We love the name. I know a lot of people did. We started kind of really investing and pushing through it, but we'll make the best out of this situation going forward, and be on the lookout for our social media account switching over to Hogs on the Hill Podcast. So anything else I forgot or you want to add there, Seth?
No, we just appreciate everybody supporting us. In a roundabout way, it may be a good thing that we got enough exposure that the university noticed us. A lot of it, I think, is due to the live show we did with our partners at Core Brewery with Scarlet Letter, having Taylor and Addison on the show live and them kind of advertising a little bit as well. I think we had a little bit of a social media spike, and it drew some attention, which is a good thing. It means we're growing. It means there's fan interaction and things of that nature, which is a good thing. And I guess if you had to put it in weird terms, better now than later on down the road when we have even more stuff we've got to change. So y'all be on the lookout for new logos, things like that. Well, the sad part is we had just made some nice giveaway koozies and things. So we'll have to kind of go back to the drawing board on some of the merch, if you will. But going to be some more exciting things to come, partially along with the rebrand. It gives us some new opportunities to do some different looks and things like that, if you will. So it's got an opportunity to be exciting, and we're kind of taking it in stride. Obviously, as Caleb said, it's not something that we're doing on purpose, but could end up being a cool thing if we handle it correctly and we have the support of you guys out there listening to us. So all in all, should be a fun ride with some new things coming, and just kind of be on the lookout as we're transitioning social media pages, things like that. Stuff might look a little funky for a little while as we're getting everything kind of transitioned over, but appreciate everybody's patience with us. That's for sure.
Yeah, this all has happened really fast, and we've been going as fast as we can. That way we don't miss out on our regularly scheduled content. And so, with that, we will be adjusting the name of our Sunday/Monday episode where we recap baseball. Instead of Razorback Recap, we will now be Razor Recap, just to avoid any more issues with the university, things of that nature. So with that being said, welcome into this installment of the Razor Recap, your go-to destination for updates on Arkansas baseball and softball action. Join us as we break down the thrilling moments, highlight standout performances, and discuss the strategies that shape these games. Razor Recap is brought to you by Scarlet Letter, Arkansas's very own handcrafted spiked seltzer. Check them out today, and if you're in Northwest Arkansas, check out Core Brewery Taproom, where you can get Scarlet Letter in all their various flavors. As we mentioned, nothing changing with that partnership there. We've got some fun things planned with them. We've got a live show coming up in May. We'll talk about that a little bit towards the end of the show. But before we jump into baseball, we've got a lot of baseball or basketball things have happened over the weekend that, as I said, we were kind of slow on our social media as we were trying to get some things figured out. But things have been picking up, as just 4 days ago, Arkansas was able to grab point guard Boogie Fland out of the, with a new commitment, with him following Coach Cal over to Arkansas, which is big for Arkansas. And along with him, Billy Richmond also committed to Arkansas. So he now has 3 of the 5-star recruits that he had at Kentucky that will be following him to Arkansas, along with the announcement today of Tennessee big man transfer Jonas Adu will be headed to Arkansas, as well as he announced his commitment this evening. So this roster's starting to fill out pretty good. I mean, you've only got about 5 to 6 guys right now, but from what's on this roster now and where we were at 2 weeks ago is a significant improvement, and I think it's just going to keep getting better.
Yeah, 100%. I was going to say the same thing. I don't think we're done by any stretch. And the biggest thing that stands out to me, and I mean, everybody knows this, but the level of talent that he's bringing already, it's very much like Musselman's best class, in my opinion, when he brought in Anthony Black, Nick Smith, Jordan Walsh, with the kind of the big three, if you will, that came in with some good transfers and things. And that was a pretty good ball club. That kind of class is par for the course for Calipari, if you will. And we're already seeing that. He hadn't even been here a month and some change yet. And, he's already, granted, a lot of these guys he's got history with being at Kentucky, but I think the trend will continue even after this year. If he's able to get these guys to decommit and then recommit to a new university just to follow him, if they have a decent season at all, there will be continued interest. It's obviously Calipari. The NIL funding is stacking up that much better. The stars are aligning sort of for us to be able to really go out and get the nation's best. And I think the product on the court should reflect that, at least to an extent. You can have a full team of 5 stars and not win the national championship. It's a hard thing to do. You got to have good team chemistry, good coaching, so many layers to it, but it starts with the good talent that you can bring in, and then how you build it from there, is kind of up to the coaching staff. So it's exciting to see this level of talent being interested in the Hawgs, wanting to come here, wanting to play for Cal, wanting to be a part of the university. If we can get these guys on campus, that's kind of been the trend so far. If they make a visit, they come see what the place looks like, see the facilities, see Northwest Arkansas. It's a hard thing to pass up, especially when you're stacking NIL deals on top of that. So it's been a fun ride so far, and we thought it would be, especially with it being a little bit more kind of close to the vest, if you will. Most of the time you kind of hear like snippets, oh, they have their visit today, and then boom, they commit that night or that next day or something like that. But you don't hear a whole lot about it until, that visit happens. So way different than how everything felt with Muss. But been a fun ride so far, and I think we're due for some really good basketball under Coach Calipari.
Yeah, very true. Right now, he's, every guy that's visited campus has been a commit, so he's batting 1,000 right there. The one person that we're waiting on that had his visit yesterday, Brandon Garrison, the transfer from Oklahoma State, another big man that Arkansas is bringing in. So, we're stacking up on the big man. Need to go after some guards to fill in some spots there, and with some experience, along with a few more guys out of the transfer portal, because you got to think you still got to add probably 5 to 6 more guys to this roster.
100%.
So, and then a couple of football updates. Over the weekend, we had a commitment from transfer linebacker DB. He's been said to potentially play both, from Utah State, Anthony Switzer. He is a Arkansas native from Augusta. He is from Marion High School, played at Arkansas State, played at Utah State, so he's making another trip home, come to play for Arkansas. And then on the flip side of that, it came out today that Arkansas running back Dominic Johnson entered the transfer portal, per Pete Nakos. So, that I think we kind of see where that running back room is headed. You've seen guys leave. You kind of are getting a great idea of who's going to be your guys that are going to get the touches. And as it seems right now, that's going to be DeBinion, Jaquindon Jackson, and Braylon Russell. To me, that's your 3 guys right there that's going to be get a bulk of the carries. And I think Dominic Johnson almost really saw the writing on the wall. He had a few seasons where he was injured, came back last year, played just a handful. And so I think he decided it was time to move on and go somewhere where he can get some more playing time. And then we got a offensive lineman commit that is coming over from Illinois/Richmond, Joe Moore. So added depth for Arkansas there. So portal news all over the board with basketball and football. But things are happening really fast, and
can't forget the Snacks Johnson one. That one kind of
that's a big one. Yeah, Snacks Johnson heading back to Baylor after spending one season at Arkansas. I think that one's a very surprising one for me because I felt like he was slotted in to be a starter this season.
And it seemed like he was high on the Hawgs right after the season ended too. He was wanting everybody to kind of run it back, and so I was surprised to see that too. There might be something else going on that we're not all aware of.
Yeah, that's true. And then, of course, you can't forget over this past weekend, you had the 2024 NFL draft where you had 2 Razorbacks drafted with Cam Little going in the 6th round to the Jags and Brady Latham going to the Rams, I believe. Or was it Bo Limmer?
I thought it was Bo Limmer. I think Bo Limmer got drafted, and then Brady Latham signed a free agent deal with was
it the Jets?
No. Oh crap! I almost wanted to say the Colts, but I'm not sure that's right. I'll have to look that up. Sorry, y'all.
Yeah, you had several guys that signed free agent contracts that went undrafted, and so I love that pick for Cam Little heading down to Jacksonville, gonna get some time in the sun, and I think he's gonna take over the job there. And then other guys you look at, you had Trajan Jeffcoat signed a deal with the Saints. You had Brady Latham signed with the Jets. So it was the Jets that he signed with. You had Al Walcott signed with the Bills. Antonio Greer signing with the Buccaneers. And then you had Dwight McGlothern signing with the Vikings. So several guys are getting their opportunity, getting their shots to kind of show what they're going to be able to do at that next level and kind of bet on themselves. John Morgan III signed with New England. So several guys getting their opportunities through camp other than the 2 guys that were drafted that will have a good chance at making the roster as an undrafted free agent. You never know which direction that's going to go. So we wish all those guys the best of luck as they begin their next stage of their careers there. And so we'll jump. You got something, Seth?
No. I was just going to kind of reiterate the same thing there, that it's cool to see that many guys get signed. And to your point, kind of the ball's in their court on how far they can go from there. You just want that opportunity. If you don't get drafted, it's not the end of the world. You can go in as a free agent that scouts just didn't recognize what your abilities were in college. You can go in somewhere and really light it up during camps and things and kind of work your way up through the practice squad and whatever the case may be. It's happened before. Doesn't always happen, and it's a uphill climb for sure. We've talked to a couple different ex-NFL Razorbacks, Drew Morgan and a handful of others that have kind of reiterated how tough it is. But wish those guys nothing but the best and hope they work their butts off and have a great time while they do it.
Yeah, 100%. And we'll jump right over into Arkansas baseball as they kept it rolling this weekend as they came back home, had Florida come to town. That's always an electric series between these 2 teams. Even though Florida's not having the best year comparative to how they have over the past few years, but Arkansas comes out, wins the series here, game 1, wins 2-1. Hagen Smith comes out and does Hagen Smith things. At this point, it's not very surprising. He comes out, goes an extra inning longer than his average of about 6 innings. He comes out and goes 7 in this game, 96 pitches, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, and 11 strikeouts. You had Gabe Geckel come in, close things out the final 2 innings with 36 pitches, 1 hit, 2 walks, and 3 strikeouts. So with this win here, the Hogs extended their home winning streak to 26 games. And you had Ryder Helfrich get things started in this one. He had a 2-out solo shot to give Arkansas the early 1-0 lead. Arkansas broke a 1-1 tie in the bottom of the 8th with Sprague's sack fly that scored Wilmsmeyer. So this was one of the games where lockdown pitching and bats did just enough to get the win.
Yeah, 100%. Honestly, we probably shouldn't have even given up the 1 run. I don't think it was an earned run against Hagen. So, take that with a grain of salt there. Not technically an ER against him, but anyways, it was good thing we got this win because this was kind of a funky feeling game. Bats just couldn't really get going. We had a little bit of success on getting guys on base, but just couldn't get them around. But Sprague coming back after I guess that he missed 5 games before this with the oblique injury and came back out and proved, kind of that clutch gene's still there for him. He didn't lose it because he has had some clutch hits for us here and there. Obviously, this not being necessarily a hit, but it's a crucial sac fly that ended up winning us the game. So it was great to have him back. If you guys watch these games, you know that he had some Sports Center plays. I'm not sure the one he had where he barehanded that ball actually made top 10, but it should have. It was phenomenal. But anyways, he's been fun to watch out there at third base, and I think he's been one of the biggest surprises that we got out of the transfer portal, and I'm glad to have him back healthy, kind of in time for the latter part of the season here.
Yeah, very true. I think it's safe to say he was overshadowed a little bit by one Peyton Holt that we've talked to before, and that takes us into game 2, which was both played on Saturday in a doubleheader due to some weather issues on Sunday here in Arkansas. Arkansas wins game 2. And the first game of the doubleheader, 6-5, where you had Brady Tigert get the start here as Mason Molina was out this weekend. He twisted his ankle in practice, and Dave said he probably could have went. He was probably about 90%, but he wanted to keep him, let him get up to 100% for this next weekend series. And I don't blame Dave there. When we've got as deep of a bullpen as we do, don't take any chances like that. So Brady Tigert slides up into that second game role where he went 6 innings, 96 pitches, 3 hits, 2 runs, 4 walks, and 6 strikeouts. You had Will McIntyre come in for an inning, go 25 pitches, 4 hits, 2 runs, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. He's the guy that's still trying to kind of shake off a little bit of a slump that he's in, where he's not, performing like we saw him at the beginning of the season. Gage Wood came out for a third of an inning, going with 12 pitches, 2 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. Stone Hewlett, 2/3 of an inning with 3 pitches. Cooper Dossett, 2/3 of an inning with 18 pitches, 1 walk and 1 strikeout. Parker Coyle, 4 pitches, 1 hit. And Christian Fouch for the final third inning with 6 pitches and 1 strikeout. So this was a game where Tiger took us 6, and then, we used our bullpen depth, played a few guys here or there, just kind of piecing this game together to get the win here so you can, kind of capture the series there.
Yeah, it was definitely a good effort by everybody involved. I thought Brady really kind of turned it on. The walks was a little bit of an issue, but could have been worse. I actually thought he had pretty good command in this game overall. That McIntyre has kind of been the head scratcher. He needs to throw more fastballs. Everybody knows he's going to throw the cutter like 95% of his pitches, and everybody is dropping their bat heads down to go chase those pitches because they know they're going to drop 8 inches. So he needs to kind of rewrite his strategy, if you will. He's still got it, man. He does. He is a very accurate thrower. It's not like he's just throwing them right down the middle. I mean, seriously, a lot of the balls that were hit off of him weren't even strikes. They were down in the bottom of the zone or under the zone, dropping out like his cutter normally does that he normally gets swings and misses on, but everybody just knows what's coming now. And so I think he'll be just fine. They just need to go back to the drawing board slightly with him and kind of rewrite how he has his approach and keep those hitters second guessing. I think he's relying a little too heavily on that cutter / off speed. But overall, the bullpen is 100% of the reason why we won this game outside of a play we'll talk about in a minute. But Christian Fouch was able to come in, kind of slam the door, throwing some absolute heat after Parker Coyle didn't look like he quite had it. I thought Dossett looked really good in this game, and I thought he actually could have finished it. But I think Dave was just playing the left-righty matchups. on those last couple of pitching changes. But overall, really good close win. We hit the ball just enough again, and then there was a heck of a play by Peyton Holt in this one that I'll let you kind of break down.
Yeah, so as we jump in on the offensive side of things here, Florida broke the one. Arkansas went in and had a 1-1 tie. Florida breaks that with 3 runs in the 7th, where Arkansas followed that up with a 5-run inning of their own in the bottom of the 7th. You had Spraglott have a 2-out single that scored Hudson White. Then you had Vahiva Loy and Peyton Holt each have 2-run home runs themselves. So there's Peyton Holt making a statement right there. This put Arkansas up 6-4, and then Peyton Holt essentially steals the show of this game, where he made
everybody's seen it, man. If you haven't seen it,
everybody's seen it. If you haven't seen it, you've been under a rock. Made Sports Center top 10. I think it was the number one overall play. New term for me, the deke play, where that allowed them to get a threatening run out at third, where he kind of just took his glove, did a little pump fake there. Runner hesitated for a minute, so Holt was able to fire the ball from center field over to third base, and we were able to go third to home to get the man out. But that was just an incredible play that I think everybody was astounded, especially if you were watching live, on what just happened. The announcers were very surprised, and because they kind of
it should have tied the game.
Yeah,
100%. And seriously, he stole a run back from him, because that was a deep enough ball for it to be a successful sac fly, and for him to do the pump fake, act like he caught it earlier than he did. The Florida player leaves third base early, realizes he didn't catch it, has to scuffle back to third and try to re-tag. That bought just enough time for him to be able to fire that ball in once he did catch it. And kudos to Jared Spraglott again. Can't say enough about him. Catch that ball, transfer it in a millisecond, and fire it right down to the catcher, and be able to tag the guy out to preserve that 6-5 lead. I think they had walked in a run or something. Can't remember if it was a single to score run before this to cut the lead to 6-5. And bases were loaded, if I remember correctly, at this point. So, I mean, you can't talk about a more clutch play to pull a double play just got out of thin air like that. So, seriously, if you haven't watched it, crawl out from under the rock. If you're watching us, then you've definitely watched the play. There's just no way you haven't. So, definitely got to give Peyton Holt his recognition. It was one of the coolest baseball plays I've seen, and I've watched a lot of baseball in my life. So that one was way on up there for me, for sure.
I was about to say, he's just making all those plays, because remember last year he had that big play where he faked going to first, spun around and went to third and got the guy out at third. So Peyton Holt,
awesome too.
Just the guy that likes to make those big time plays. And I think he's positioned himself in to get more starts out there in center field. Wilmsmeyer's been good defensively, but I think you put Peyton Holt out there with the bat that he brings. I think it's hard to sit him right now, especially
100%.
with the hitting struggles we've had as well.
Yeah, and he's kind of proven to the coaching staff that, look, you can play me anywhere, and I'm not going to be a defensive liability. So if you want my bat in the lineup, stick me where you need me. I can play left field, center field. He could play right field. If we can talk about this more in a minute, but if there's ever the need to sit Diggs because the slump has gotten that bad, he could play right field, I'm sure. I don't want to really go there and talk too much bad on Diggs, because he's really having a rough season. But maybe down the line, if he doesn't seem to shake it off, that would be something you might make that move if you make it to Omaha, where kind of all bets are off and you really don't have time for somebody to try to work their way back out of a slump. But it's really nice to see Peyton Holt kind of prove that he is viable anywhere. Great infielder. We already know that. Turn it into a phenomenal outfielder. He's made some jumping, almost robbery type catches along the fence, the deep play. He's had some diving catches out there to rob base hits. I mean, it's just, he's kind of done it all for us this year in the little playing time that he's gotten. And he's really, in my opinion, earned a starting role kind of wherever you got to put him. So he's been fun to watch. He's electric. Really is kind of the heart and soul of the team from an energy standpoint, with some of the plays that he provides for us, whether it's home run balls or crazy defensive robbery type plays. So he's a really fun player.
100%. It's one of those things, like we said, he's making it really hard on Van Horn on what he wants to go with in this lineup. And like we said, I wouldn't be surprised if he gets more starts his way whenever, he's making it where it's hard to not start him. And, another big thing that we haven't really talked about just because this big Peyton Holt play is Christian Fausto came in for that final third inning. He threw 6 straight pitches of 100 miles an hour in this game. So, he's
dude. He was hyped up for that 1 out.
He's the guy that I think they've said has the most consistent velo of anybody on the team. I mean, when you come out there and throw 6 straight pitches that are triple digits there, that's pretty consistent there. And I think for him, it's a guy that if he can get a little bit more control on that, I think that's been his issue last year, this year, in almost a Jackson Wiggins type scenario where he's got the speed. It's just that control and that command. It was where he struggles a little bit. If he can get this where it's consistently over the plate in, strike territory there, then this has the chance to be one of those almost deadly reliever type guys that can come in at the end of the game and pump in 100 miles an hour 6 straight times and get you some outs.
Yeah, no doubt about it. I mean, throwing that much velo, you question how long he could go if you needed him in, an extended, like you say, you're in extra innings or something like that. Might not be the best time to throw him out there. Who knows? I don't know. You've seen guys that can throw 100 miles an hour for 50 straight pitches nearly, was a couple of the guys you think of back to like Ben Joyce when he was at Tennessee. That dude was otherworldly as far as the velocity goes. Yeah, I mean, Skeens is another one. It's just there's some freakazoids that come through every now and then, but I feel like Fauch has really made a big step compared to last year. Yeah, there's still some work that could be done on the control, and he probably needs to develop a little bit more of an arsenal of pitches other than just the heat.
Maybe
He's
a couple
got
off
some,
pitches,
but it's just
yeah.
Throw a little bit of off speed out there here and there. If you can have any type of like breaking ball. The changeup will be deadly if he can perfect it. If you're seeing 100 mile an hour and then he throws a changeup that's, if he can get it down in the upper 80s, even, like a 10, 12 mile an hour difference on that would be rough on a hitter's perspective. He's got some unreal potential, especially even at like the next level. That's one thing that a lot of scouts will look at on him is just the raw potential he's got. It's up there with some of the best. If he can continue to develop the way he has, he'll end up being playing on major league teams somewhere. But he definitely was able to come in and slam the door shut even more. I don't discredit Cooper Dossett though, because he came in and I thought he pitched really, really well as well himself. So the whole bullpen, pitched in a little bit to secure this win. It was not just any one person that won this game. It wasn't even the Peyton Holt deep play, even though that kind of did. There was a lot more that went into it as well. Just enough timely hitting with the home runs. Overall, a great team win. And a good thing we capitalized on this one because Game 3 didn't go great.
Yeah, so true in this one. So, you look at it, you got to know has that adrenaline pumping after that Peyton Holt play. We have that inning with two home runs and, that blood's got to be pumping, so that probably helped that 6 straight pitches. Another thing that before we move on to this Game 3 that I think it cracked a lot of people up is if you watch the post game, they talked to Peyton Holt and he was like, "Yeah, we practice that out in the outfield all the time," type of that thing. And then they asked Dave Van Horn the question in his interview, and he was like, essentially, that's a bunch of crap. He was like, they don't practice it. We don't practice that. He said they may practice that out there, but we don't as a team practice that type of thing. So, it's funny to see those type of interviews and, and see the, difference between players and the coaches and, how they view things like that.
I think it's a sign that the guys are really creative out there. Peyton Holt's probably one of the best ones on the team that we've had in a while. Just his creative fielding. He's got a very high baseball IQ, and you can really see that kind of bleed through in his play. You mentioned the play from last year where he faked the throw to first and then ended up getting the lead runner at third. He's done tons of things similar to that, kind of throughout his career here, just maybe not quite that flashy as the couple that we're talking about, but his baseball IQ's off the charts. And some of the plays that not just Peyton Holt have been able to make out there in the outfield, you got to give Diggs a lot of credit. He hadn't been hitting the ball well, but he has been fielding the ball extremely well with multiple highlight type catches. You can't say enough about Wilmsmeyer's ability to play center field and just rob base hits, rob home runs. He's done it a handful of times on the home run balls, which is a sight to behold when it happens. That little guy just flies up the wall, it seems like. But you can tell that those guys are proud of what they do. They have a lot of pride in being a no-fly zone out there in the outfield. It just kind of, you see it from everybody that's playing out there. They have a little bit of that swagger behind them, if you will. Even Lovich, heck, Jason Jones, when he's out there, has made some good plays. So you got to give them a lot of credit for the way they've been able to play. They hold each other to a high standard, and I think that his comments around them practicing that out there, those outfielders probably do amongst each other. I guarantee it even. And Dave Van Horn doesn't have to micromanage that out of those guys. So that just shows tremendous leadership in this team from the players themselves. Van Horn's even said it before. He barely even has to coach this team because they're out there coaching each other. And that's really a good sign of a good program.
So true. And before we move on, Seth, can you can tell me where Peyton Holt's from, right?
Greenwood, baby.
Oh, yeah. Pumping out those athletes out there in Greenwood.
Left and right, man.
No kidding. And then, as Seth mentioned earlier, we'll jump over to Game 3. We'll highlight this really quickly because not a ton to go over as Arkansas falls 9-5 in this one. They clinched the series, which is always good. Like we talked about, you're going to lose a few games every now and then. As long as you can clinch the series, that's at the end of the day, that's what matters. You had Ben Bybee get the start in this one, a guy that we've seen midweek starts, over the past, month or so. With Molina out, Dave decided to shift him into that weekend rotation, kind of see what he's got there. Ben Bybee goes 3 innings, 55 pitches, 3 hits, 3 runs, 2 walks, 2 strikeouts. So not the greatest of starts there, allowing the 3 runs, the walks only, you'd like to see that a little bit better. Cody Frank comes in. He is still a guy that's been struggling. He only goes 1 inning, 29 pitches in the 1 inning. Allows 2 hits, 4 runs, 2 walks, and a strikeout. So a guy that seems to kind of like Diggs at the plate. He's just really struggling right now, and hopefully he gets it figured out before Omaha when we kind of need him to be clutching some maybe key moments there. You had Dylan Carter come in for 2 innings. You'd love to see him getting some work. 32 pitches, 1 hit, 2 runs, 2 walks, 1 strikeout. Jake Faraday comes in for 2 innings, 32 pitches. 1 hit, 1 walk, 2 strikeouts. And then Parker Coyle gets his number called again, comes out for 1 inning, 17 pitches, has 1 hit, 1 walk, and 1 strikeout. So, this is a game where you can tell that we're missing one of our weekend starters. So maybe the rotation was a little bit off there. So guys getting more innings and more playing time than what they normally would. Not saying that is necessarily an excuse, but it's going to throw, just maybe throw things off a little bit.
Yeah, 100%. And you got to think too, all weekend we had done a pretty good job of pitching around or intentionally walking or getting some lucky outs against Jack Caglione. He finally got his in Game 3 here, and we probably should have walked him and just walked in a run. But he did get a grand slam against, I think it was Cody Frank. Actually,
yeah, he allowed the 4 runs. So
yeah, it was kind of just an ugly scenario where Cody Frank came in to try to give Ben Bybee a little bit of relief because Bybee was struggling a little bit through the lineup. You got to give Florida credit; they've got a pretty good offensive team, especially in their 1 through 5 hole. And heck, even their 6, 7, 8, 9 guys kind of really had some pretty good at bats against us throughout the weekend as well. They hit the ball well all weekend long outside of against Hagen Smith. Even in the relief of Game 1, they were still getting some hits. We were just able to capitalize and keep them from scoring. But anyway, they really came through. Their offense exploded a little bit early on in this one. It made it tough. I think we were down 7-0 at one point, so it was a big hole to try to climb out of, or 7-1, if I remember correctly, actually. Anyways, that grand slam kind of put this one out of reach early, if you will, and I think that's why you saw some more of the pitching names. Dylan Carter, for example, coming in. just to see, at this point, we've won the series. We're down kind of big. If we can chip away and get back into it, cool. But if not, there's no sense in throwing somebody out there that, doesn't need to hurt their arm or something, that had already thrown previously in the weekend, like Will McIntyre, for example. So I was happy to kind of see how we utilize this game. We were able to chip away a little bit, cut it down some, but overall, not the worst loss ever, considering, who Florida has kind of in their 2, 3, and 4 hole in their lineup. At some point, they were going to bust through and score some big runs, and they finally did in this game 3.
I was about to say, and Caglione did all this game because this was a game where he DH'd and he also was on the mound pitching as well. So he gave him some good innings there on the mound, but then also, like we said, got his own. As we'd walked him most of the weekend intentionally just because we were avoiding that bat. But in the end, Arkansas, they started early in this one. Peyton Stovall had an RBI single to put Arkansas up 1-0 early. Florida hit back with a 1 run in the third, and they had 6 runs in the fourth, and that's kind of where things got out of hand. Cody Frank comes in the game, gives up that grand slam to Jack Caglione. Arkansas tries to fight back in this one. They put up 2 runs in the bottom of the fourth, and then Arkansas would only score 1 more run in this game, or 2 more runs, 6th and 8th, but it just not enough. Like we said, put it out of reach early with that grand slam. That kind of, was the icing on the cake there for Florida in this game 3. Stovall on the day went 3 for 3 with 2 doubles and 3 RBIs. Sprague went 2 for 5. McLaughlin 2 for 3, 2 doubles and an RBI. So overall, still good to see Arkansas get the series. They've got 3 more SEC series left. As we talked about last week, as they're wrapping up 2 big series left with Kentucky and A&M. There's going to be, I think, series that could be SEC title on the line type series there. Arkansas still remains on top in the West, and I believe Kentucky is still sitting up at the top of the East. So, it's going to be a tight finish at the end. It's going to come down to, does a team get a sweep or do they just win 2 of 3? It could be that close at this point. So,
yeah, it's going to be a wild finish, man. Definitely almost a photo finish, if you will, especially between, us, A&M, and Kentucky, with us and A&M kind of flirting for that number 1 spot in the West. And then Kentucky's done pretty well. They've dropped a couple of games here these last couple of weekends, but they're still, kind of atop the East, in my opinion.
And you can't forget Tennessee either.
Can't forget Tennessee. I think Tennessee is they upset Kentucky, if I remember correctly, last weekend, winning 2 out of 3 and taking the series from them. Anyways, you're starting to see a little bit of separation. There's kind of the big 2 teams on either side of the conference, if you will. And there's some other good teams, stacked down in through there with South Carolina, Alabama. Auburn's not bad. I'm probably forgetting a few others. Honestly, Florida is better than their record shows. And I hate that for them. They've got a really good ball team. They just haven't won the games that they should have. But they do have some serious talent. I would love to have Caglione, and Razorback Red. But, sometimes you just can't make those types of things happen. But because he is a freak. But all in all, we've set ourselves up with some of the wins earlier in the season. We got the sweep against Mizzou, the sweep against Ole Miss that are kind of helping us right now. If we can find a way to win at least one of these series against either Kentucky or A&M, we might drop a series, and it's not the end of the world if we do, as long as we don't get swept especially. But if you win one of those, either 2 out of 3 or sweep one, potentially would be crazy, but it's possible. That would really, in my mind, kind of solidify that position atop. I'm not sure there's enough leg left in the race, if you will, for somebody to really catch and overtake us unless some drastic things happen, which is possible. But we've got ourselves in a good position. And heck, even this game 3, I'll mention it quickly. If Mason Molina is able to start this game, do we give up 9 runs? Is the 5 runs enough to get us the win? At that point, I felt like we hit the ball okay in spurts in this game, kind of similarly to how we did in game 2, especially with, you mentioned it. Stovall went 3 for 3. Sprague 2 for 5 is not bad. McLaughlin 2 for 3, really not bad at all. I mean, had a couple of guys have really good games and scratched some runs across. It just so happened that we gave up a grand slam that really kind of felt like it put things out of reach. So you got Mason Molina in there instead of Ben Bivey, and maybe it's a different story. I don't know. You can sit there and what if yourself to death, but it gives me even more high hopes that when Molina comes back, are we able to have a better shot at sweeping, an A&M, for example? That is crazy talk, honestly,
On the
with how
road,
many
that's
runs
gonna be
they
tough.
score. But anyways, it would be fun to do that if possible. So it's gonna be a fun finish for sure. It's coming down to the wire kind of, and it's got a lot of things on each of these games has a lot on the line, which is a fun feeling for baseball because sometimes it can not feel that way. This is going to be a fun finish in the SEC. That's got national implications all over it.
That's so true. Arkansas still in the talks for that number 1 overall seed. That's on one of those things where I don't want Arkansas to purposely lose, but if they do, it might be for the better in the sense of we don't get that overall seed and have that curse on our back of having to carry that to Omaha. And so, that's things to look at different perspectives as we finish up the last 3 SEC series here. And as we jump over to Arkansas softball, they keep it rolling as well as they go on the road and capture another big SEC series against number 7 LSU. They win game 1 here, 2-1. Morgan Leanstock continuing to do fantastic things in the circle. 7 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 1 walk, 1 strikeout. LSU scored early on a fielder's choice, but that was it for them. Arkansas ties the game thanks to Lauren Cammons in scoring Reagan Kramer. Bree Ellis scored Hannah Gamble for the go-ahead run in the 7th, and Arkansas hit LSU 7-3 in this one, and Bree Ellis went 2 for 3 for her 11th multi-hit game of the season. This team keeps finding those ways to win, and it's just incredible. We had that little rough patch there. I hate to even call it a rough patch where we're missing Robin Herron and that type of situation, but they seem to be getting back to what we saw earlier in the season. And, they've only got 2 SEC series left. And, I mean, they're getting hot at the right time.
Yeah, they really are, especially pitching. That was, in my opinion, the main reason we won this series. We had some timely hits and things, but nothing dramatic, nothing explosive like we've been able to do here and there. But the pitching really kind of held up and carried us. You can't say enough good things about Morgan Leanstock at all. I mean, she has taken her opportunities and made the absolute most out of them. So got to commend her for that. Fun team to watch. Got a lot of good bats that if you can time everything out right, that like you were saying, we're sort of getting hot at the right time overall as a team. Bats need to kind of get it back together like they did kind of the early part of the season. And I think this team's got a chance to be pretty dang dangerous. And to be able to go on the road and knock off a team like LSU, I mean, it feels very similar to when we went to Georgia and knocked them off when they were number 3. So this team plays good on the road, man, and that really bodes well for you whenever you're getting into those tournament scenarios where you're not at home. Say, you make it out of regionals or whatever, and you're on the road and you don't care. You play better on the road. So it could shape up to be a pretty exciting postseason if some of these trends continue and some of this pitching continues.
Yeah, that's very true. So Arkansas sits 4th in the SEC right now behind Florida A&M and Tennessee. So, it's going to be an interesting finish there to see how Arkansas softball finishes the season there. Game 2 of this series, Arkansas comes out and wins 4-1. Pitching here, you had Robin Herring get the start in the circle, 2 1/3 innings, 3 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, and a strikeout. Hannah Cammons in 4 1/3 innings, 4 hits, 2 walks. And then Morgan Leanstock comes in to kind of slam the door there in that final third of an inning to help Arkansas secure the series. Freshman Kennedy Miller was the story in this game, 2 for 3 with 2 RBIs. Kylie Halverson has accounted for 2 runs as well. You had Reagan Johnson have her 19th multi-hit game as well, going 2 for 3 and scoring one of those 4 runs. And Arkansas scored 3 of its 4 runs in the third of this game. So, they got jumped out early and didn't look back and secured the series win here.
Yep. Pretty exciting things to be able to shut a team like LSU down to 1 run in each of these first 2 games. That's how you win ball games, especially when you're not, just knocking the cover completely off the ball because they have good pitching as well. Being able to hold them to 1 run in game 1 and then 1 run in game 2, that's a really good recipe.
Yeah.
Heck, and then in game 3, game 3, same thing. We just couldn't scratch one across.
Right, exactly. You hold them, you lose 1-0. Like Seth said, pitching there, we're able to hold them to 1 run. So if you have a little bit better day at the plate, you probably sweep here. But Reese Berling got the start here, 4 1/3, 2 hits, 1 run, 3 walks, 1 strikeout. Hannah Kim's in the final 1 2/3, 2 hits, 2 walks. Like we said, they fall in this game, but they win the series. So both baseball and softball win their series this weekend, respectively, going into the last little section here of the SEC schedule. Both teams will be active midweek this week. Softball is not usually midweek games, but they have one this week. Arkansas baseball will actually take the field in a midweek series this week, 2 games versus Missouri State starting tomorrow night at 6:30. Softball will head down to Central Arkansas and play at UCA at 7 o'clock tomorrow night as well.
Pretty exciting things getting the in-state there. I think that was the last game of the UCA games that they had scheduled. They might renew some of that because I think UCA came to Bogle last year, and that was the
I think they did a home and home last year.
Did they really?
I think so.
That might have been the case. Anyhow, fun things playing some in-state teams, and UCA's good. That's the thing. I mean, their baseball team's good. Their softball team's not bad either. Like it's not like they're just a cupcake team. You got to go down there and actually do, your normal things and actually hit the ball well, pitch the ball well. You can't just kind of brush this one off. So, same way against Missouri State. That's a team that any Arkansas baseball fan is very familiar with. We've played them time and time again in whether it's a midweek series or it seems like they get matched up in our regional quite often. So that's a team we're extremely familiar with and probably going to be good to see some of those guys back in Fayetteville. So go out there and watch those guys. Hopefully the weather gets cleared up some. I think that's going to be something we fight with a little bit off and on this week is some ugly weather. But as long as that holds off, should be some pretty good games.
Yeah, very true. And so as we kind of wrap up here, if you weren't here right at the beginning as we were talking, after this show, you'll start noticing some changes. So don't be concerned. We're not going anywhere. We are just rebranding, like we said at the beginning of the show, due to no issues of our own. So
thanks, U of A.
Yeah, like Seth said. So going forward here on out, you'll see all of our social media and YouTube pages and everything transitioning from Moopig Weekly to Hawgs on the Hill. That's going to be the route we're going now. So it's going to be Hawgs on the Hill podcast. So after this show, I'll start switching things over on our social media accounts. So don't be worried if you don't see the account anymore. We're still going to be there. It's just going to be under a different name. And as we're getting things figured out, like I said, we didn't have our show last week because we were working on getting things figured out here. So Hawgs on the Hill, that's going to be going forward, how you can find us. And I mentioned earlier, we had our big first live show at Core last weekend or 2 weekends ago now. And if you didn't get a chance to get out to that one, was out of town or something like that, well, don't worry. We've got another one coming up May 18th is going to be our next show. So that's going to be another exciting thing. We're working on getting some stuff set up. So get out there and check out Core. It was a fantastic environment and great showing for everybody, all the fans that came out, to watch us and check
Good
out the show.
Experience. We'll have some better.
We've got plans.
Yeah, we got some better sound stuff coming our way as far as some setup things and things of that nature. If anybody watched the show, we had a couple technical difficulties at the beginning just with it being our first show there, but lots of good things coming, a lot of learning that happened that night, and it's going to only get better from here. Really excited about it.
Very true. So that that'll be wrapping up. Get out there right after that A&M series. So it'll be that series is a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series that will wrap up. The first game that game on Saturday starts at 1. So theoretically should be done by the time we get ready to get started up around 6. It'll be a good time. Get out, come check out Core. If you haven't been there before, if you have, come visit them again. They got a new fantastic vodka soda that we got to try out last time. That is amazing. So yeah, just mark that on your calendars, May 18th from 6 to 8 at Core Brewing here in Springdale, Northwest Arkansas. And then, of course, as I said before, Hogs on the Hill, that's going to be our new brand going forward, new show title, social media, everything like that.
It is pre-approved per the university.
So no changes again, hopefully. And so yeah, that's where we're at. That's why things have been a little weird this past week in the weekend and things, but going forward, we got some exciting things for you guys, and we're excited to see where this whole rebrand takes us.
Very true. Appreciate y'all sticking with us out there.
And so, as always, don't forget to like and subscribe to the show. Spotify, Apple Podcast, YouTube. Go check it out. Look out for those name changes. So don't be confused if you don't see Woo Pig Weekly anymore. I can't stress it enough. Hogs on the Hill podcast. That will be our new brand, new show going forward. So yeah, we'll catch you guys back with our regular schedule this week on Thursday, and we'll catch you then.